Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another fabulous Wednesday here at MasterStart. My name's Michaela Thomas, and I am the Marketing Project Manager here in the marketing team. And today we have an awesome, exciting, phenomenal session as usual. With me here, I have Dr. Manti Grobler, and today we'll be chatting through balancing technical expertise and power skills for successful leadership in the modern workplace. Shoo, what a title. But yeah, good morning to you guys. Please pop a hello in the chat. Let us know where you're coming in from. I see a lot of good mornings, but no one said where they're beaming in from. I'm sitting here in a rather grey Cape Town, but that's all right. We've got a nice jersey and jacket on, and we're here to snuggle down and get some awesome insights into the world of work here. Cape Town too. Hi, Natalie. Hope you're well. Joburg, all the way from Cape Town. Hello, Nathan. So before we get started, and whilst your fellow attendees are starting to log in, I just want to walk you guys through who we are at MasterStart quickly. So MasterStart is here to help your employees and teams reach their full potential as future business leaders by providing practical and relevant upskilling and reskilling online courses. So we're in the business of online short courses. In collaboration with leading business schools and industry experts, we offer a supportive and connected learning environment that fosters peer-to-peer learning and creates a fun and meaningful community. I always agree. I think that the best learning is one that you can remember after a good giggle. So join us for a rewarding learning experience that is directly applicable in the workplace. So I see a couple of more good mornings coming in from Randburg, from East Rand. I hope that the weather's a bit nicer up there. From Quebec, Gaborone, awesome. Swaziland, oh, fantastic. Hi, Juliet, all the way from Pretoria. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to introduce Dr. Manti Grobler. She is an expert in consulting, lecturing, and coaching. We go way back, but specifically, she's interested in human development and the role of technology, digital technology in this day and age. All the chats about chat GPT and all that, I'm sure we'll get stuck into that. But yes, thank you so much, Dr. Manti, for joining us, and I will hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michaela. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with you and to get these opportunities to share some thoughts and to see where the conversation will lead us. So I managed to get my other view going as well. So I'll be able to keep an eye on the chat as well. So my invitation for today is let's use it as a true learning experience. We all have ideas. We've all been part of this journey, navigating our careers, navigating life. And let's, please, use the comments, post, feedback or questions that you might have, and please, give yourself permission to participate. So, shall we start?
Yeah, I have my notebook ready. In case anybody needs one, please get it out. You're going to love it.
No pressure, Michaela. Yeah, so I'm just going to share screen. Let's see if this come. There we go. And I'm going to hop into, close that, and hop into the PowerPoint. Yeah, so as Michaela said, today we're really focusing on this journey of coming from a technical starting point of seeing ourselves with technical expertise, and then how do we look at what else in order to step into our roles as leaders in today's environment. So just a bit about myself to share kind of my journey on why I think I have a point of view on this journey, and where I started in my career way back as a programmer. I always identified with the idea of a programmer. I'm sure nowadays it's probably called a coder, but certainly we looked at ourselves as being programmers. And I'm not sure if anybody of you in this audience will remember languages such as COBOL and RPG3 and Natural Adabas, but that's where I paid my dues as a programmer and really feeling comfortable behind the desktop at that stage, and feeling in my space. That if my motto at that point was, if you can explain to me in words what you want this program to do or the system to do, I can code it. So I was very comfortable in being this programmer. But something happened to me, and it was on a trip for work to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, to implement a system that we develop here in South Africa for the Ethiopian airlines. And I was one of the team that went to spend some time with the team in Ethiopia. And going there as a technical expert, as one of the creators of the system, I had a moment, and even if I just think about that moment, it's like so real to me even this day. And it was a moment of seeing and realizing that I can connect to other people, and I can explain something to them, that I could see a light go on. And that moment of realization that I'm more than just a programmer, I'm more than just sitting behind a computer, led me to be curious and to wonder, what else can I do to get that same feeling of adding value? So that led me to a next stage of my career, where I engaged more with people. I became a more of a solution architect. I did some work as a pre-sales or sales support specialist with some of the solution well-known CRM solutions out there, and I grabbed each and every opportunity where I could be a trainer, be a teacher. So teach my knowledge, teach the system to others, and that took me to quite a few interesting places around the world, where we did 3 weeks boot camp for technical people in specific areas of the solution. So I spent some time in places from America, various places in Europe, and one of my highlights was 3 weeks in Seoul in South Korea. So that made me just see myself in a different light of how I engage with the world, and something that took me then to kind of really coming to my own is using education as a pathway. So I always think of myself as a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to academics, but it's now around 2010. I went back to school to do my master's degree in technology, and then on that I did my PhD. And when I did my PhD, I dabbled a bit in the master's. I found this topic, this field of human development and technology, and I really built on that for my doctorate. And in my doctorate, I focus on the role of technology, or the potential role of technology in human development, and I used design thinking as part of my research approach to the research project as such. And through that insights that I got on human development and our change journeys, that led me to coaching. So I also studied integral coaching through and I'm certified with the International Coaching Federation now as well. So that led me to really stepping into my being, if I can call it that, offering a portfolio of services now as a coach, as a lecturer, and as a consultant. So drawing on everything that I've gone through on my journey, from labeling myself as just a programmer into now having choice of what I do, and really, really loving that. And I hope some of my journey will perhaps be like like a new idea or new stepping stone for you to explore. So what does it mean to be this IT professional or this technical expertise? So if you would describe some of the skill set that you would think is relevant to this, to being a IT professional or technical expert or subject matter expert, what would you say? So if you can put for me in the chat, either kind of the top skills that you would consider a person like that should have, or a definition as such of how would you describe such a professional? What would that be? So we see Shelley Ann says there's subject matter expertise, focus on knowledge, yes. Resilience definitely is very important. Curiosity, being agile, definitely precious. I'm glad you're focusing on our bread and butter, right? Our technical skills, patience. I think you're working with a lot of end users, perhaps. Adaptability, IT professional and technologies. So interesting. Yeah. And that need for adaptability. Now, Michaela mentioned chat GTP earlier on, and I asked a question to chat GPT, and I ask, what are the top skills of IT professionals where we started off, and it was so interesting. I think you spot on the money when we look at the things that you've shared, and the complexity that we deal with as well. So the responses that I got is top of the list is our technical skills. Of course, we need to be able to deliver in our field and working on our technical skills. And then things as well like our problem-solving capability. And maybe I haven't spotted that being listed because it's something that we do intuitively in this field. Every day and each day we are solving problems, but it's a skill. It's a specific skill that we need to work with and develop further on how else we can do that. And then specialization as well, like we've seen subject matter expert being mentioned here as well, where it's really important that there's problem solving as well. Thank you. Yeah. And innovation as well listed, very important ability linking to problem solving as well. And that attention to detail, again, that's something that we often take for granted, but code won't work if it's not correct, or if we if we don't follow that attention to detail when we troubleshoot and so on. So that's quite important as well. And then due to the nature of our work, we need to be able to manage our work, manage projects. So we pick up on project management skills, and often we see that is a career path that technical people can consider as they go through their career ladder, their career growth. Adaptability is very important. I mean, we don't often realize all the changes that we're facing constantly and how we need to adapt to that. And then just the nature of the environment that we are in, and probably what brought you to this session this morning as well, is the need for continuous learning. I mean, we cannot sit. If I was stuck with my my first technical skills as a mainframe programmer, I might still be able to do some maintenance work or keeping the lights on in some old, organizations, but I would definitely not do myself a favor and be marketable. So continuous learning is just the nature of what we do. But this view that we have here is very much as if it's a bit isolated. We can see this professional sitting by herself, a little bit isolated in her work, and it could be seen as very transactional. So what we mean by a transactional way of work is when you are a order taker. You get requirements, or you get a spec or user stories, and you can, you just work on that and you deliver the end product, whether it's UI design or process design or, delivering applications, whatever your skill set allows you to do. But it's very much an isolated picture that we see here. And I saw that some of you have already started alluding to, no, we're not just working by ourselves, or we're not just order takers. We need to move to a place, and this is where the power skills come in. We need to move to a place where we are relational when we engage, because in reality, we're not working by ourselves. We're working as part of a team. So we need to be able to relate to one another. In an agile, there's this concept of working in teams, working in pairs, pair coding, of how we work, and driving ourselves with that ability to work with others. We also have to engage with management, be it our team management or the project management or the Scrum Master, depending on how we work in. But there's a relational between other people who are in leaders. And if you're a leader in your team, then obviously you need to engage with your team members. But there's interaction as well there. In addition, we have the people that we are delivering services to, our stakeholders or business, or in Agile, it would be your product owner that you are engaging with in order to make their dreams and desires come true from, the ask from technology. So there's an element of engagement in there. And what we see now is, on top of that previous list that we had, on top of the technology skills and the adaptability and the constant learning and so on, we also need good communication skills, the ability to collaborate, and the ability to coach as a way of leading. So how do we do this, and why do we find that we have this complexity that we need to deal with in the workplace? And on top of that, part of this picture that I want to paint for you here, on top of that, we find that there's a lot of unexpected things that happen. So if you think about this past couple of years, what unexpected things have happened to you at work? Can you give me some examples of unexpected things that has happened in your workplace? So let's see. Working remotely, changing of roles or experiencing a demotion. That could be quite unraveling. Remote work, load shedding, Yeah, that's really an interruption. The pandemic, sudden restructure or change in product direction. Yeah, oh my word, Alette, that's quite a tall order. Sure, things like culture, like corporate bullying, that is quite. Oh, Trevor, lucky you, receiving flowers. That's unexpected for sure. Yeah, and the economic impact as well in some of our workplaces that we have to do. Yeah, that we don't receive financial rewards. Remote, additional workload, load shedding. Yeah. So those are all unexpected things that happen. And what I really like about this quote from Ed Catmull from Pixar, Pixar, the animation company, is where he says that when we are facing with unexpected problems, we can only respond with unexpected ways, or to quote it properly, we must meet unexpected problems with unexpected responses. So what does unexpected responses look like? And what is the unexpected challenges that we have faced? So some of the unexpected problems that we dealt with in the past is exactly as you've listed and what you experience as well, is the impact of the pandemic and things, the unexpected consequences of that, like the impact on economy, the remote working, the change of how we look at boundaries. Those are all impact that we have, and then the need for remote collaboration. If we just look at the uptake of digital whiteboardings like Miro and Mural, or Teams, it's just this expectation that we should still do what we do, even though we're remote. The fast pace of change is ever more prevalent. I mean, I was in a conversation yesterday with an academic institution around how should we look at the use of artificial intelligence like ChatGPT. What do we need to do with this, and how do we work with it, because it's not going to go away. And then things like disruptors that happens, like sudden change of management. That's a disruption that happens that's out of our control. Restructuring. We've had somebody else also experiencing restructuring. Those are all real changes that we have. And then the industry disruptions as well, like a competitor that comes up, or look at just in the energy space of how that is being disrupted, maybe not as fast as we would like to see it, but we can definitely see how renewables is changing the way of how we look at energy. We're very familiar with the disruption of financial services, the disruption of telcos. So there's lots of change that we see in those industries. Projects, and we've already seen here Gerard mentioning the restructuring of internal systems and how that have an impact on our projects, or Patricia dealing with additional workload. That's also a way of how do you manage your capacity, and how do we deal with that? Technology. Often we get introduced to new technologies. If we just look at AI with robotics, with the bots that we implement at workplaces, how we need to constantly be on top of the new ways of work. So these are lots of challenges that we are facing on a daily basis. And then I also added their relationships. So relationships, people have got the ability to often offer us unexpected problems. Can anybody relate to that one? How people can create unexpected problems, and some experiences that you might have in that. But definitely that earlier comment about, thanks Uripa, that earlier comment about corporate bullying is an unfortunate experience of how people can disrupt and create unexpected problems as well. Self-preservation is also so it's always a sad thing when you see that it's not about us, it's about my own self-preservation. What's happening here? Brenda, you're with me. You deal with that every day. So yeah. So, but what's also very interesting for me is there's so much research that shows and case studies that shows us that the more pervasive technology becomes, the more important humans are in the equation, and we play different roles in these environments of how we engage with our environment, be it our work or be it in our own personal lives, of how we engage with one another. Yeah. I love these comments that's coming up, and how do we cope with these challenges, these unexpected problems. But the good news is that part of our unexpected response that we can have then to these challenges, and use that to build these super skills that we need to have, our skills of communication, of collaboration, and of coaching, is our own ingrained human capabilities. And we've identified like 5 of these superpowers that's really coming to its fore, and how we can differentiate ourselves from any piece of technology that's going to come our way. And the first superpower or human capability that I want to introduce, to think about, is our ability to be creative, our creativity. And often people confuse creativity with artistry, and that's not what we mean here. Creativity is our ability to think. Think about that. If you come up with ideas, if you find ways to solve a problem, that is all the starting point of being creative, and being willing to build on that. So I'm very passionate about owning creativity and seeing creativity as our birthright. Everybody has got the ability to be creative. The next superpower is curiosity. Curiosity helps us to reconnect to what we do and reconnect with each other. So if I'm curious about somebody or a Gerard. Curiosity killed a cat. Thank goodness we're not cats. Good one. But being a careful cat, if you're curious, then you would always ask questions and seek to learn. And we're going to show how we string these human capabilities together as well. And you would be willing to explore. For me, it's the difference of being what's the right word now? If you disengage, if you're not engaged, versus leaning into what you do, and taking an interest and having that curiosity mindset in such. And the next human capability that we're looking at is our imagination. And imagination is so powerful. It's the place that we go to connect the dots. It's our ability to ask how else, how might we, where we can seek the potential not seen yet. Intentionality, I like that, Nathan. That is such a beautiful word that you're offering there, and that brings, that's making our imagination work. So when I facilitate, I do a lot of design thinking work, and when I facilitate design thinking sessions, I often have a you know, a period where we just go into imagination, where we work with with um, with images, where we use metaphors, where we ask how might we questions, and when we allow to just dream or think outside our constraints, to say, how can we see the potential, or look for the potential not seen yet. So practicing our imagination is also a human capability. And then empathy. Empathy is it's like one of our superpowers as humans. And if we practice empathy, if we allow ourselves to connect with others and to be able to see their perspectives, we can go to a place of deeper understanding. So really seeing it from from the end user's perspective, or from our client's perspective, will help us to design better solutions. So for me, practicing empathy in the workplace, in this context of work, is empathy with purpose. It's not to be what's the word now, to be confused with sympathy. So you're not going on a pity party, you're not judging, you're not feeling sorry. It's really to step into those shoes of the other person and to understand it from their perspective. So empathy is definitely something to practice, and it's a superpower to lead to that deeper place of understanding. And then the last one is courage, showing up and being seen. I often think about my journey, being sitting behind, almost like hiding behind my computer screen, and wanting my work to speak for me. And the change where I got the courage to start speaking and being seen and act despite of. And my favorite quotes, one of my favorite quotes, it's do or do not. There is no try. I'm sure some of you would recognize that. But it's that willingness to do. Now, the good news is these human capabilities sits within all of us. And it's like a muscle that we built, that we can strengthen by deliberately practicing um, practicing those capabilities. They are also connected. So just jumping quickly back. So if you think about, you can only practice your creativity if you engage with your imagination and you have the courage to share it. You can only practice your empathy if you are curious in the situation and you engage with your courage to connect with somebody else. You can only practice your imagination if you string all of them together to go to that place of deeper possibility. So all of them are this beautiful kind of string connections that we can connect. And the best thing for me to know, it is not a type of person. So you don't label somebody as, oh, that person is so creative. It is a way of being. So we don't have sole ownership of one of these capabilities, but we step into a way of being. I practice creativity. I practice my imagination. I practice my superpower of courage. So it's a way of being. It's a way of showing up in the world. And models are so useful. I mean, models always help us to make sense, to think about, okay, so how can I apply this? What can I do? So a simple model that kind of help us to unpack this a little bit further is if we think about the three components of creativity. So if we think of using the idea of creativity, of thinking, and of sharing our ideas as an anchor to these building these capabilities, um, this is one of the models that we say. So, what are the components of creativity? And interesting, what's being identified is that expertise as a starting point, then the willingness to do, the motivation, and what we'll see there is the strength of intrinsic motivation, the fact that I want to do this versus external or extrinsic motivation, like I'm told to do this. Now, how different that would feel between wanting and having to. And then the third component is the how to, the creative thinking skills. And the moment I see skills, I think I can learn that, I can practice that, and we build on that. So the benefits, just briefly, the benefits of working with these amazing superpowers of our human capabilities is the fact that we can, if we grow that, it will help us to unlock value and help us to change problems into opportunities. It helps us to look at at life differently and at what happens to us in a different way. It helps us to adapt to continuous change. Like there's this lovely picture about, instead of feeling overwhelmed, is how can I serve this wave of change? How can I flow with this wave of change if I practice these these capabilities? I need another coffee, I think. And then and in addition, you can already see, I hope, that by focusing on these capabilities, it will help us to build new skills, both technical and interpersonal. For example, our communication, collaboration, and coaching skills, working with others. It's, of course, I hope you can see that how it will help you to develop and develop others as well through focusing on these capabilities. And then it increases our motivation through finding meaning in what we do and having that satisfaction. So it definitely develops an open and creative mindset. And just some interesting statistics that I found is that the World Economic Forum, you can see that was kind of within the pandemic in 2020. They've published a report that's saying that 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025, and that's quite a sobering thought. And that's something I'm sure that you all experience in the technical field, or working with organizations of what is happening and what is still relevant, and how you constantly need to think about what you do and your path. I'm happy to share the slides, Latendo. That will be through Michaela. I'm sure we'll share the slides, and thank you if you think it will add value. And then the focus that they say, that the critical or the top skills that we need to focus on is our ability to do critical thinking and problem solving. And that just reminded me as well, in the news of late, all these deep fakes are so prevalent now. So can you trust what you see with your own eyes in a digital world? So what is your critical mind telling you, and can you practice that discernment? So it's really going to be interesting as we navigate the future. And then interesting as well that they've identified the emerging skills is very important as self-management. And self-management came to the fore because of the remote working. So you can imagine, or most of you have experienced the requirement for you to self-manage in a remote environment and take put up your hand if you need support, or having those conversations. So things like active learning, engaging, the resilience that we've also saw coming up in the comments, stress tolerance and flexibility is all recognized as skills that we need to focus on. So how do we do that? Now, I came across, also some time ago, I came across this book by Beth Comstock. I don't know if you can, yeah, it shows this book. This book by Beth Comstock called Imagine It Forward. And what's really interesting with the method, the approach that she shares in this book is from her journey as the former vice chair of General Electric of GE. And she was focusing, she was helping them to really transform GE. It's a really interesting case study of her journey there. So just reading from the book's back page, she's the former vice chair of GE, where she led efforts to accelerate new growth and innovation, initiated GE's digital and clean energy transformation, seeded new businesses, and enhanced the brand value and inventive culture. Yeah, and she's recognized as one of the world's most powerful women, and she's a LinkedIn top 10 influencer. So I think she knows what she's talking about. Now she shared her method and her approach in this book, and I thought, let's look at that as a way of bringing it all together. It's one thing for me to say, be more creative or practice your presentation skills, but how does it all come across, and what is a practice or an approach, a framework that I can follow? So let's see how this feels and how if this makes sense to you. So what Beth Comstock said in her journey and in the description or the summary of her approach to do this transformation, she said that the future is not in our stars. In other words, it's not spelled out for us. It's not predicted in the stars. It doesn't sit outside of us, but it's in our imagination and our actions through creativity. And it requires us to imagine it forward. So to imagine it into being. And her method that she described is to give yourself, start with self-permission, the discovery, the agitated inquiry, storycraft, and creating a new OS. And that fits beautifully into this way that we can look at creativity around how do we build on our expertise? How do we work with our motivation that drives us into discovery, into our own transformation? And how do we work with our creative skills? I've already disclosed that I practice design thinking. So I'm using design thinking as one of the approaches to building creative thinking skills. So for you, if you haven't been exposed to design thinking before, it's a creative approach to solving problems and it's human-centered. So it starts with people who you're designing for and their needs. And then you've got a toolbox of amazing techniques and tools that you can use to help you to think. So let's take a little bit of a step-by-step look at this approach. So self-permission. We can't, I can't emphasize this enough. So often we get stuck because we are waiting for permission. We don't act because we think we need permission. And it's subtle. It keeps us quiet, as an example. So an anecdote to that, and it's both promoted by Beth Comstock, also by another author that I quite like, Brené Brown, in her work, especially like Dare to Lead. I'm not going to pull out my whole bookshelf for you this morning, but the practice of giving yourself permission is extremely powerful. So give yourself permission to be a change maker, permission to act, permission to push outside expectations and limitations, and permission to ask questions and test assumptions. And that way we build social courage. Even if you go into a meeting, write in your notebook or put on a sticky somewhere, write, I give myself permission to. Is it permission to ask a question? Permission to ask for clarity? Permission to speak in the meeting, to share your opinion? Give yourself permission to act. And in design thinking, we often speak about the need to build creative confidence, because it's all, Harrod, as you said then in your comment as well, it's part of our ability to build our critical thinking skills, where we can step into our creative confidence. Now, we don't have enough time this morning to really unpack creative confidence, but I want you to link to the work of David Kelly. He's one of the thought leaders in the design thinking world, and he wrote a book as an example on creative confidence, but he's also done a TED talk on creative confidence. It's short. It's, how short TED Talks are. So do yourself a favor and go and listen to his talk on building creative confidence as a place that we can, show up and share ourselves. And we need to focus on this. My last thought on this one, we need to focus on this because of all our past experiences that we've had, where we stop being creative or expressing our creativity with others. So it's really an area that we need to work with. The next point that Beth said is around discovery. Now, discovery is that willingness, that place of wanting to know more and becoming an expeditioner in what we do, like discovering as much as we can. It's like doing our research in our spaces. So a lovely practice to do this and to build clarity around what you do is to create your own value proposition. So to discover about yourself, to give yourself that clear thoughts of what it is that you do. So there are different ways that we can do this, but a nice technique is really to go and discover about who are you offering value to. So who are your stakeholders? And if you understand who are your stakeholders in what you do, then you can think about, now, what are the challenges and the opportunities that they are facing? So often we talk about it, the pains and the gains that they are experiencing. And then the next step would be to say, now, what do I do to alleviate some of their challenges or to contribute to their opportunities? And those are your clues around how you talk to your value proposition, to the value that you bring to them. So finding that common ground of speaking to their problem and then describe your value to them. So again, this is a topic by itself, but it's so powerful if you can discover that value proposition for yourself. It makes your back straight when you know that. The next point that Beth raised is agitated inquiry. Now, agitated inquiry is that willingness to ask the question and to realize that tension is good. Tension is needed for innovation and learning. If we don't have tension, or if there's no healthy conflict, I know it can go off the scale as well and become very unhealthy. But if there is some healthy conflict that we have in our space, it keeps us from being mediocre, and it keeps us in a growth place. So often people avoid conflict, and that can become very unhealthy as well. We need to learn how to handle it and how to make space for it, almost with a feeling of excitement and expectation of growth. So we see conflict as a catalyst for creativity. We learn how to engage with conflict, and we become curious about different perspectives, and we use that in the way that we communicate, we collaborate, and we coach. So a nice practice to practice all these superpowers of us is to to consciously practice curiosity and empathy. So we want to recognize when there are potential conflict. We know that it's a climate of innovation even if it's with ourselves or with our team members. And then we can have this mindset to know that it's about learning, not just performance, not just delivery, not just having all the answers. And there's a lovely exercise there about the 10% exercise. So the 10% exercise asks you, can you listen to the other person's point of view for at least 10% of what you can see or value, or that you can build on? So as a practice, or as to exercise this, if you're in a conversation, before you respond, because that also happens when there's a little bit of heated argument, we just want to talk over each other and we want to prove that we are right. But can you listen for that 10% in the other person's argument, even if it's just recognizing their passion? Then you can say, I like your passion. And so it's always something building on. So I like what you're saying about fatigue, people feeling fatigue. I agree with that. And can we look at XYZ? So it's building on, but finding first that 10% that we can acknowledge of what the other person said. And then always asking questions. Assumptions are very, very harmful. We don't want to make assumptions. And I like this concept as well around, can we get to a place where ideas trump hierarchy? So it's not about your position that makes us all listen to you. It's the idea that should win. And then also one of my favorites is the power of the artifact. That talks to prototyping of what your thinking is. If you can take your ideas and put it visually outside on where we can talk to, then it's an amazing shift that happens, that it's not an idea that's in your head that you're trying to defend and you're trying to explain. It's an artifact that we are talking to. Yeah, and having difficult conversations to turn conflict into momentum, and then building on trust. And trust is an active thing. We constantly have to look at what builds trust and how do we nurture trust. And then the fourth thing is around telling stories and building our story craft, and it's really about connecting minds and hearts. And whatever we do, we are storytellers. And if you can connect with who you're working with, if you're delivering services to other stakeholders, can you make them see what you're doing in their context, and how do you communicate that to them? And it's really that gift around making the invisible, the abstract, the thinking visible to somebody else. And the moment you bring something in like a persona, a character, or a client story into what you're delivering, you help people to connect and to care about what you do. So as a practice, use opportunities for playback to share your work. So often we are waiting to be invited to the table. Sometimes we can put up our hand and saying, I want to share what I'm doing. And to practice that telling the story of the problem you are solving. And we know that there are so many ways of communicating. So there's the spoken way of communicating. The more you do it, the better you become at it, and the more you're developing your own style. But be open also for feedback. There's different presentation medias that you can get comfortable with, like using, I mean, the old go-to is still the PowerPoint, but there are so many other interesting media out there that we can use as a digital story media. Obviously, the written word as well. And if you can express yourself beautifully in written, I know a lot of organizations are going back to the memo. And it's so interesting. Like, I want to communicate this idea, so I need to create a memo of positioning, what's the problem statement, what is my research, of how to solve it, and what's my solution, what's my recommendation. So it's a good skill to have as well. And then presence. I mean, presence speaks 1,000 words. So even if you're on remotely, the tone of your voice, the way that you speak, the presence that you bring into a conversation is very important. And you can do a little bit of an assessment there to say and ask yourself, what do I need to improve, and how am I going to do that? And I'm keeping one eye on the time. Sorry, Michaela, as always, I want to share perhaps a little bit too much, but I'm hoping to bring everything together now. So all of this approach that Beth has shared with us around giving ourselves permission, around discovery, the agitated inquiry, the storycraft, and then all comes together in creating a new operating system for yourself and for your team. And it's that new mindset that we're going in, connecting with our why, being a change maker that owns the story, and active building trust as a collaborator, and then helping us to move from transactional into relational. And that is how we become a 3C champion. So coming back to that whole idea of communications, of being willing to connect and to share our creativity, our thoughts. How do we collaborate with one another with trust? And how do we use coaching as a leader? So coaching is really about that, engaging with that empathy, engaging with each other through curiosity, and moving beyond value into our courage. So remember how we can use all of these human capabilities to strengthening our skill, how we engage with creativity, curiosity, imagination, empathy, and courage. And lastly, as I'm wrapping up, I wanted to invite you to look at your own map for growth. So a map always speaks to me at knowing that where I am right now and having an idea of where I want to go. So that path of growth. And the model that I'm drawing on here is work by an author called Daniel Pink, where he has said that first of all, it starts with mastery. If we think of really wanting to change and wanting to grow, the question is, what are you famous for? So where do you focus on building your mastery? And the second area is building your leadership, building your autonomy. How do you want to lead? And how do you take responsibility for making decisions in your life? So that autonomy is so important. And the last one for me, so important, is finding purpose. So the question is, do you care, and how are you going to go about your life in showing up fully in your life with these ideas? So thank you very much for the opportunity to spend this hour with you. Yeah, really feel very privileged to be here today. Over to you, Michaela.
Thank you so much, Manti. The notes go on for pages and pages. I think for me, just before we wrap up, just talking about unexpected problems, like you have to have unexpected solutions to unexpected problems. And I noticed like everybody in the chat was talking about human problems, their human experience in the workplace. It's not necessarily, oh, the KPI wasn't reached or this project timeline was moved. It was people. So
Yeah.
like it's in the proof is in the pudding. It's in the chat. Lots of thank yous coming in through for you, Manti. I think this is one of the most valuable sessions that we'll have again in the series. And again, just re-emphasizing what we're about here is to share story. That story craft that you spoke about is so important. You know, I think the difference between us connecting with someone and us just taking something and putting it to the pile of things to think about is through story. And just sharing your story and where you come from, and starting as a programmer and now you are where you are, and having that fire for learning and helping others and finding your purpose. It has been incredible to listen to. So again, I want to say thank you so much. And just before we end off, I just want to share what we've got next, just to keep people interested, of course. And just before we take questions, so just a quick snippet of what's coming next. So next we'll be talking to Dua. She's from Girls for Girls, and they really are focused on mentorship. So you guys can read more about this in the coming invites and on our socials, but the topic will be breaking barriers through mentorship, why every voice matters. So it's a very powerful one, and it will be the last of our series that we've had in Q1. We're probably at the end of Q1 already, so just sneaking into Q2 there. But really, I think, again, a big thank you from us at MasterStart today. Please, guys, if you have any questions that you want to ask right now for Manti to answer, make use of the chat. If not, you can find her on LinkedIn. You can ask us. We'll pass on any questions that you have. You can find us as well on our socials and our website. So please, if you want to reach out and chat more about this, please do. I think one of the most amazing things to see is this transformation, especially in our space, and learning to power skills, to people skills, to refinding that human connection in the workplace. And this is it. This is an amazing toolbox that you've given us, sort of like a magic, those magic like Mary Poppins bags that you open, and there's just so much that you can dive into. Yeah. So Jasmine's also reminded me we'll be sharing the recording in a few days. And tell your teammates, come and listen to this. Come watch this. It'll be available for review as well. So please, the power of sharing is also important. But yeah, any last thoughts or questions for Dr. Manti? You're very welcome to ask it. If not, any last thoughts, Dr. Manti, before we wrap up?
Just want the slides.
Oh, yeah. That will be shared as well, do not worry. But yeah, come back and watch and take notes again. And it's that practice, as you said, Manti, it's the practice of going through it.
Yeah, active.
AI is coming for us all, but it's fine because people will need to tell the AI what to do. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Michaela.
Awesome. I hope you all have a wonderful day further. Nathan asked, have you considered working in the sports industry? The people element, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely happy to engage wherever.
Before you know it, will be like seeing the Stormers, and then on the side it's Manti, it's like cheering them on. Definitely one.
Empathy, guys, empathy.
I'll definitely have it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for attending. We really do appreciate you and your time. And yeah, we hope to see you in our next one in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, we will be sharing, of course, the slides and the recordings. Follow us on our socials. Keep an eye on our blog. We do post there as well. So yeah, I'm going to wave as I do at the end of every session, just to make it a little bit weird. But I'm going to wave and say thank you so much, guys, and I hope you all have a fabulous week ahead.
I did a nice wave.
Oh, the Queen's wave. Yes, just the polite one. Have a wonderful day, guys. Cheers.
Bye.